gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Dirty Bedroom Show proudly brings to you Cards Subject to Change, Shorts with Hassel, where we tackle the what-ifs of professional wrestling. And this week, we're going to tackle none other than what if Kane, it's gotta be Kane, had went to WCW in 1997. So let's just be honest, people. Without Kane or Glen Jacobs going to the WWF in 1997, feuding with The Undertaker, getting his feet firmly established under him, we wouldn't be talking about him today. Had Kane or Glen Jacobs went to WCW, he would not have a Hall of Fame career. We would not be talking about him. He would not have had longevity in the sport. Let's be honest, up until 1997, he had zero, that's right, zero luck in the industry, as he had been multiple gimmicks. He had been a rotten tooth gimmicked dentist in WWF as Isaac Yankum. He had already had a run there, feuding with Bret Hart and a few others. He had been Unabomb. He even wrestled as a fucking Christmas tree. He had already had one stint in WCW as Bruiser Martino, or however the hell you want to, Massino, or whatever you want to say. Jobbing out to guys like Sting back in the mid-90s. So he had been there before. I think, what if Glen Jacobs had went to WCW in 1997? So it would have been a no-brainer for him to be fed to guys like the Giant at the time, who they were kind of pushing back up. He would have definitely been fed to Lex Luger, who they were feeding every big guy they could to show him, put him in the torture rack to get him ready for Hogan, as Luger took the belt off of Hogan briefly there for a week in 97. So that would have been his course. He would eventually stayed the course in WCW until he would have eventually been fed to Goldberg. And then after that, who knows? He might have joined the flock and been there with some of those other big guys they had. I think that he probably would have stayed with them up until the point to when he would have joined up with Berlin and the role that became the Wall. The guy that was the Wall, who, God rest his soul, he was a heck of a talent. I feel like that would have been the role. He'd have got his most success in WCW, as Glen Jacobs would have fulfilled that Wall role to a better capacity. Glen Jacobs is a heck of a worker. I'm not knocking Glen Jacobs, the worker. It was the perfect storm with him under the mask. Let's face it, Glen Jacobs on the mic is trash. Kane on the mic, trash. Glen Jacobs under the mask as Kane Golden, feuding against The Undertaker, Brothers of Destruction, Mankind, Vader, all of these things, even him moving into Stone Cold, The Rock, these guys like that. That is what made Kane a household name. Excuse me. In WCW, we'd have never got any of that. And if he'd stayed the course with WCW, they'd got acquired. He would have fell into that batch of guys that just unfortunately faded into oblivion with the purchase of WCW by Vince McMahon. So we would not be talking about Glen Jacobs. We would not be talking about Kane. And let's be honest, folks. Had Kane debuted even in the WWF, say around 94, 95, we wouldn't be talking about him now, because that would have happened. Same thing would have happened to him then that happened to fake Undertaker, Brian Adams. I mean, let's just be honest. We wouldn't be talking about him. Not Brian Adams. I forget his name escapes me at the moment. But either way, fake Undertaker. Let's just be honest. Well, that was a cool concept that lasted one match. We might have got a few more out of Kane and Undertaker, but he would have not have stayed the test of time. It was just the right place, the right time, the right gimmick, the right man. Any other way, it don't work. We don't talk about Glen Jacobs. And that's the bottom line, because Hassel said so. But at the end of the day, you got to remember, the card is always subject to change.